dreams are not handed to you. You got to fight for it. But the way it works in America is you have to have something special, a good product, and you have to work hard for it, and then you're gonna achieve your dreams. I'm literally living the American dream.
Jay, thanks for coming out. Appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
So, man, tell me a little bit about your space. What do you got? What do you own?
So I own 2 restaurants. Nowon, it's a Korean-American pocha or gastropub. We're located in East Village, New York City, and Bushwick, Brooklyn.
Oh, wow. So tell me about Nowon. Like, where did it start? What were the beginnings?
Dude, so I mean, when I opened Nowon, first of all, I didn't think I was gonna open my own restaurant that fast. I left my hotel executive chef job.
That's a cushy job.
Yeah, it was. You know?
I'll bet.
Great salary, great benefits, comfortable like work-life balance. This was 2018. No, hold on a second. Yeah, 2019, February, I quit. I was 30 years old at the time, and I told my girlfriend then, who's my wife now, I told her, hey, I think I want to quit my job and just try to do pop-ups and see where that takes me, because I was like, I don't have kids, I don't have a wife, it's just me.
Yeah.
And I have to do something bold and daring to try to make a name for myself.
So wait, like this is a crazy mindset though, right? Because like you have what everybody wants, especially in the hospitality industry, which is like stability.
Yeah.
You know? So like, why blow that up?
I think it's because maybe, I don't really know either, but I think it's because I'm an immigrant. Like, I want hardship.
Wow.
You know, like I didn't come here to be comfortable at 30. Being comfortable to me in my mind is like kind of complacency, or being comfortable leads to complacency.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to be comfortable. I wanted to wake up with fire under my ass.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
So I think that's the reason.
Well, how long did you think about it though? How long did you joke about doing pop-ups before you were like, I'm actually going to do this? Or was there like, I would imagine that there had to have been some sort of like running thought in the back of your head that's like, I got to do something. So was it, or did it
pop-ups were a thing back then, I mean, in I want to say like, even now pop-ups are a big thing, but pop-ups were coming up. I worked at this pop-up called Yuji Ramen back in 2012 or something like
you worked
that.
for somebody else's pop-up?
Yeah, when I was a line
okay.
cook. When I was a sous chef or a line cook, I worked part-time at a pop-up. So I've heard of pop-ups then, and I got to experience what a pop-up was working in the pop-up space. And I think that mindset never left me. That idea of a pop-up never left me, because opening a restaurant takes so much capital. It takes so much risk. It's a scary thing to do. And a pop-up is a way to get to you. It's a journey, right? I don't think you have to go from working from one place, like one restaurant, to opening your own restaurant.
Yeah.
That's a huge jump. Some people do that, and kudos to them.
But like, is there anything about the world of pop-ups like that? I think maybe the idea of them is different than the reality of them.
Well, I think the idea, definitely. I mean, pop-up is harder than doing a pop-up. You don't really make any money, and it's the hardest thing to do because you have to do everything.
Yeah.
Like for me, coming from a hotel job, I had a sous chef, I had a kitchen manager, I had HR, I had dishwashers, receivers, I had every specialized role in a restaurant I had. But doing a pop-up, you got to do everything.
Yeah.
So it goes from you wearing one hat and just overseeing to wearing all the hats and doing everying.
Well, not to mention just equipment. You had refrigeration, you had all the bowls, the knife, you had everything right there, like organized and set for you.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that, when you go off to do a pop-up or something like that, you kind of realize how much support exists in an existing restaurant, like for you. And like when you go off on your own, you're like, holy shit, man. Like, oh my God, like running to the store to get whatever ingredient you forgot. Yeah. So the idea for Nowon though, so you're like 30 years old, you're like in this awesome hotel job, and you're just like, if there's ever a time to strike, like it's got to be now or something like that. Did you have the idea for what you wanted to be? And like, what was the initial iteration of Nowon as a pop-up, or was it called something different?
The pop-up was called Him Pop-Up, H-I-M, and Him in Korean means strength. I don't even know why I named it that. I was like, let me just come up with a name that sounds like like strong or with a cool meaning behind it. And so that was the name of the pop-up. And I came up with the name Nowon, and I contemplated a lot on what to name the restaurant. And I've never worked in a Korean restaurant in my life. I've always worked in like American, Californian American, French American, like Italian, you know, Indian, Japanese, but never Korean. But when I thought of what I wanted to open, it brought me back to my roots as who I am. I'm Korean and I'm American. So I wanted to open up something that represented both of the cultures. So I named it after my hometown in Korea, where I was born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, so you've never worked in a Korean restaurant?
Never.
How did you learn how to cook Korean food?
I mean,
I don't mean to be like that.
No, yeah, I mean, you know, I've cooked Korean food at home all the time. I've eaten Korean food growing up. My mom cooked Korean food for me. So it was just part of who I was. And like me cooking Korean food at home, it never felt like I was cooking something fancy, or like I just cooked for me and for my family. So then, you know, when I got to cook Korean food in a restaurant where I was feeding hundreds and thousands of people, it was special, because then I could share part of my culture with everyone else.
I mean, there's so many threads that I want to pull. The first, though, is like, you know, somebody wanting to do a Korean food pop-up isn't, in other cities, maybe that's amazing, and there's like not a lot of that. But in New York, I would imagine there's a ton of it. Like there's just a ton of options out there. So like, how do you, when you're thinking about getting this out there, like how do you put your own spin on it? How do you think that you're going to leave a different mark? Like, how are you going to do something different than, hey, we're going to do bulgogi, or hey, we're going to do, you know, kimchi fried rice, or whatever it is. Because New York is different. You have to have, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of appetites, and there's a lot of food here. But like, if you can find a niche or a lane, like you can really hit. And I'm wondering, like, what were you devising? You had this kind of traditional cooking background. I'm not minimizing it at all, but you weren't like specialized in, you know, Korean. So like, what do you do? How do you start putting this thing together?
You know, when I first came up with the style of cuisine I wanted to do, I knew I wanted to do something that represented Korea and America. And I wanted to really bridge the gap between the two. A lot of the Korean like fusion food you find these days, kind of, I mean, at least the food that I grew up seeing, kind of tacky, you know, like just like,
it sucks.
You know, I mean, it was good, but it was kind of tacky in my mind.
Like what do you mean by tacky?
I don't know, like bulgogi tacos, like bulgogi cheesesteak. Like, it's just like, it's like you go home and you have two leftover food and you're just putting it together. That's what it felt like, you know?
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know, you see it in like some other cuisines as well. Like, I don't know, like, I don't want to talk crap about, you know what? I don't want to.
I mean, if you're ever going to, you don't have to be specific and name a name, but like
something teriyaki with avocado and then sour, whatever, you know? It's just like, you're just putting stuff together. I mean, it's kind of like, there's no real story behind it.
Right.
So as a chef, as a trained chef, I said, how can I creatively come up with dishes that tell a story, but people actually love? It needs to be first and foremost delicious, but it needs to be unique enough where people have not seen it before. And I want to set the trend, a new trend for what Korean American cuisine could be. Because, you know, when I opened Nowon, a lot of Korean restaurants does exist, but it was more of like the mom and pop shops.
Yeah.
And then it was the fancy fine dining Korean spots. And there was nothing really in between. Nothing really in between.
Yeah, maybe like a place like I don't know, Turntable or something, like a Korean fried chicken place that might have a vibe to it. Maybe they do cocktails, but nothing that I would consider like elevated traditional food, but like kind of like brought down for everybody. Like one of my favorite trends in I guess kind of like maybe New York food scene is like kind of the idea that you can get amazing food in a real dressed down setting, you know? And so like maybe that didn't exist. I wasn't really looking for it, but it wasn't also something that people were talking about at the time. So you have this idea. Are you like putting together a menu like over the years, or is this just you sat down and like just kind of like brainstormed it? And
all right, so when I came up with the menu for the my pop-up called Him Pop-Up, it was at Black Emperor Bar in East Village. They no
How did you work it out with them?
Okay, so the owner there, the main owner, I work with at the hotel, or he was part of the hotel's management group. He started working on this bar project, and he's a bar guy. He doesn't want anything to do with the kitchen, and he called me when he was like a month away from opening the bar. He said, "Listen, I need someone to come do a pop up here, cook, use the kitchen, and do a pop. Basically, do a
That's
pop up.
so ideal.
Yeah, do a 6-month pop up. Pay me rent, pay portion of the utilities, but you're gonna be responsible for, hiring your own staff in the kitchen, buying and doing all that stuff." Nope, I said no problem.
That is an awesome opportunity.
Yeah. So I came up with the menu by going into the space and looking at what they are as a bar. Japanese inspired, Asian inspired dive bar. I couldn't make like, I don't know, like raw fish bibimbap. It didn't really make sense. It needs to be food that goes well with beer, shots, and stuff like that. And I was drinking a lot back then, so I knew the type of food that I love. Double cheeseburger, fried chicken wings, tater tots, like charred veggies, like things like that. So I came up with a menu that fits the bar, but with the Korean like touch.
So you didn't stress over it too much?
No, I came up with the menu and like I came up with the menu in my head in like half a day, and then the next day I went in, started recipe testing, and came up with a small menu within a day.
Tell me about the first pop-up you did. Were you him then? It was called him?
Yeah, the first pop-up ever.
Yeah, do you remember it? Like,
Yeah, I remember.
like how many burgers did you sell or whatever?
Okay, well, before the 6-month residency pop-up at Black Emperor Bar, my first pop-up I did when I quit my hotel job in February 2019 was a duck. I did a duck roast pop-up. I served about 70 people and in one night, and it was a meal that was centered around roasted duck. And I did duck fat kimchi fried rice. I did mung bean pancakes with duck confit. Roasted duck. I did some, charred rice cakes. My mom came in to help. My brother served. It was a fun night. So that was my first.
Like, were you serving like friends and family? 70's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. I think we made like ticket sales. I think it was around like $3,000 and. Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Like you caught it right away.
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
And so from there, it just kind of like why not bring something that was already kind of successful to the bar just because you didn't think that it would fit?
I didn't think it was gonna fit. I just wanted to do a menu that I wanted people to come to eat the food that I was serving and have a great time ordering the drinks because it just works so well together. And people that just stumbled in wanting drinks, ordering food, and just being amazed by it because it just worked well together. So I wanted to capture both sides.
What was the biggest mistake you made when you were just starting out doing pop-ups?
I think drinking too much.
Really?
Yeah, my health was not good. My wife still reminds me. She goes, she'll be like, "Do you remember when you used to get like feverish like at least once a week during your pop-up days?" And I'm like, "Really?" It's like, "Yeah, like you genuinely had a fever because you were just sick every single week. Like my body was just breaking down."
I mean, it's easy to do. You're at a bar, people buy you a drink, you kind of always have a beer, just kind of always something going on.
That's what it is, yeah.
Yeah.
And
so when you start to really get into the bar and you're doing this 6-month residency, what did that look like? Because I mean, it's like the dream. The dream is, I did a little pop-up. It kind of like did really well, and now I own my own restaurant, and like we're gonna expand. Like that's such like a dreamer story, Yeah. And so I guess what was the ramp up like? I mean, what did your sales look like in the beginning when you were doing it versus the end? Like, did you see like consistent sales growth? Just because so many people are interested in this exact, like taking this exact path,
Yeah.
Like what can they really expect? And I mean, I'm guessing you might be in a little bit of an outlier, but I mean, was it just rocket fuel right away or?
No. The first 2 months, I started my residency in like late April, and the first 2 months I wasn't making any money. I was losing money to a point where I only had a few $100s left in my bank account. And I had rent coming up for my apartment and my the space I was renting for the pop-up. So I had to go sell my Panerai watch that I've saved like 3 years to buy for like just a few $1,000s just to have money for rent.
Wow.
So, and I was working, 7 days a week,
Burning out?
12 hours a day. Yeah, burning out. You know, it was so slow in the beginning. The bar was slow. If the bar's slow, I'm slow.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, so it was so slow to the point. And keep in mind, it's just me. I'm the one that's in there receiving deliveries, setting up the kitchen, firing up the equipment, doing the dishes in between, cleaning the kitchen, prepping. And it was so slow during service. I would just sit. I bought from a 99-cent store a little folding stool just to sit on the kitchen line, just waiting for a ticket to come in. And it was really sad those nights, because I can't go out there and just like drag people in. You know, people need to know where we are. But something told me that I have to keep trying. I knew I didn't want to give up. I was like, I have one life to live. This is my shot, and I'm not going to give up now. So I just kept being persistent. I started inviting a lot of influencers and just comping meals. I said, I know what I'm serving is unique.
Yeah.
I know it's delicious. People just need to know that we're out here. And within 2 months, an article came out from Gothamist. And the title of the article was Random Bar in East Village Serving One of New York City's Greatest Burger. Yeah, the bar owner was pissed. He was like, when I came into
yeah,
he thought that I told him it's a random bar. I'm like, dude, I don't have control over what the person writes.
Yeah.
And right when that article came out, we had hundreds of people just trying to eat the burger.
Yeah.
So it was from that moment I hired my line cook, I hired a part-time dishwasher, and we started like making some money.
So, like, there's two things in there that's really interesting to me. One is that, you know, it's like having a pop-up like yours at a bar. People could, even if the bar was popular, they're not necessarily going there to eat unless they know that you're there. And like to see that both of you kind of had similar experiences, just in terms of like business, because like opening up one is, but like how important do you think it was that, and maybe you're not going to want to go here, but you know, you had something really unique and authentic to you, and you really believed in that concept, and like that's not something that's easily replicated by others, right? I mean, your food came from you and your experience living in New York and being Korean, you know, versus a bar, which is kind of like, okay, you know, it's maybe not that unique, especially in like a place like the East Village. And like, did you notice a difference in like your sales? Like, were you as a pop-up now outperforming the bar that's hosting you?
No. The bar was always making way more money. Because you know it's hard. It's hard to eat more than a burger and tots. Like you're stuffed, but then drinks, you could drink 5 shots, 6 shots, and you know. So the bar they were very happy.
Because you were not bringing in business for them.
Yeah. Oh, they were so happy when people were coming in to eat the food. They automatically want a beer, you know, and a shot. So they were so happy.
So my other question in this inflection point is, you know, the power of influence and like what it can mean for a business and what it doesn't mean for a business. You know, it's been my contention that, you know, influencers can really get people into a place, but they can't get them to come back twice.
Yes.
You know?
I completely agree.
And so it's like, you know, you could have the article written and people could come in and line up, but if it doesn't meet the expectation that they had, like that's like a sugar high. Right? You in like as a restaurant owner, I'm interested to hear how you feel about this. Like, you know, living and dying by influencers coming in and getting that crush, and then you go back down, and then getting a crush, and then you go back down. And maybe I guess your bottom is higher than it was before from influencers. But you know, is that it sounds like it was both crucial to you, like getting off the ground. But I'm wondering, like long term, like how important was that versus just being consistently good? I always say you got to have the same food at the same price at the same place. Like people want to know that they can expect that they're going to get value when they come in. And so I'm wondering, like, do those two things have to happen now, or like, you know, what? I don't really know what the question is there. I just feel like that's an important thing that not a lot of people really consider.
You know, to me, if I agree with exactly, you know, how you propose that question. If you don't have good product that's good value, then no matter what you do, no matter how much money you spend on PR, how much money you spend on getting influencers in, your product is trash. People are not going to come back. You don't have a foundation. You don't have anything good to provide. So you're not going to take off like as you want to. But you could have a great product, a great story. But if people don't know about you, then you can't take off either.
Yeah.
The way you grow is always through word of mouth. What influencers do is spread the word, and they reach a mass audience. So I think that's the value there. And I still work with influencers here and there, case by case basis, and I've never stopped doing that because I know, for me, I can still reach a new audience. Every year, every few years, there's a new audience. There's college kids that just graduated. Now they're in the work field. Now they want to know what are the cool spots. So I think they're both very important. But the more important part is having a solid, product that you serve at a great value.
It's so boring, but it's honest to God, I think that it's like, I've been a food and restaurant journalist for like 15 years now.
Yeah.
And it's funny how, some places catch lightning in a bottle, and it's a really unique thing, and it can happen. But so much of it is just down to consistency.
Yes.
So much of it. And there's no like sexy, awesome story around like we make the same burger 80 times a day or the same pizza or the same pasta, but nobody wants to come in and try your spin on it. They want to try the thing,
Yeah.
And so I guess like as you're growing, like how do you go from, and like, can I ask like a business you got, like what were sales like in a pop-up for you on like an average night towards the end where you're coming up on the 6 months and you're like thinking about what you're going to do. So what were you doing in the beginning sales wise? I guess you're doing like maybe $10 that first.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. In the beginning, it was like, I would sell like 5 burgers a night, priced at like $15. So I would make like $200.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, when we took off, we were doing between like 2,500 to like 3,500 in a week, serving burgers 7 nights a week.
So you're doing like over 20,000 a week.
I think around that. Yeah.
As a pop-up. That's a pretty great. Yeah. That's a pretty great trajectory. So why blow up the apple cart? Why not just say, hey guy, we're doing this great together. Why don't we just continue on like we are? Why open up something else? Like why?
So I found a location, right? And I stopped my pop-up end of October. In I think it was around like early September, late August, I found my space that I could afford. And it was in East Village, not far from the bar. And the owner didn't want me to do both because they thought I would take business away from one to another.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to fight. I said, you know what? If it's not something that you're comfortable with, no problem. Like I'll just stick to our original commitment. I'll end my residency at 6 months, and then I'm gonna open up my restaurant, and that's what I did.
And so, one thing we could really skipped over was this burger, and like, what's this burger all about? Like, what was the burger that you were selling that caught the eye of Gothamist? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I was serving a double cheeseburger smashed on a sesame seeded bun with kimchi mayo and dill pickle. That's literally what I served. But it was the burger with honey butter tater tots with back then I did like shin ramen chicken wings, and I think I had like blistered shishitos with like black sesame Caesar, chopped cheese rice cakes. There were like so many unique dishes that all like worked well together. I think that really captivated the critic.
Yeah, and so what was the inspiration for these recipes? I mean, you kind of glossed over the fact that you were Korean, you're American, you're like thinking back to your childhood, but like, I mean, there's no way New York didn't like leave an imprint on you and your personality and your likes and tastes. And so how do you kind of like put those two things together? Like you said, there's a lot of people that I think what you were maybe alluding to was like, if you're not in tune to a culture, like specifically, you could really kind of like, I don't want to say appropriate, that's a weird word, but in this instance, but like if I don't know Japanese food very well and I say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a chirashi bowl, but I'm going to put an American spin on it. It's like I don't have the kind of command of the subject matter to play off of it in a genuine way. So I'm not really adding to it. I'm just bastardizing it, right? There's like there's a big difference between those two. And like I'm wondering for you, it's like how did you like kind of like sew these two, or I'll say weave. How did you like weave these two identities together and like put it on a plate?
I basically took my favorite dishes that I ate growing up in New York,
Like,
like burger, tater tots, fried chicken wings, chopped cheese sandwich, and I thought about the dishes that I loved growing up in Korea as a kid,
like,
Korean fried chicken, kimchi, tteokbokki, and then when I looked at a dish, I start off so my mind works like this. I look at the dish, right? Fried chicken. Okay, where am I trying to take this? It can't be half Korean, half American. Sometimes it can. It needs to be, if I'm gonna use a Korean ingredient on a dish, it needs to amplify what that dish is without overpowering what it is. So, for example, our chopped cheese rice cakes, I want it to taste like a chopped cheese sandwich, but the vehicle is rice cakes.
but it's so good.
It's great, right?
It's a killer dish. Like, I went into it like not hating on it, but like there's no fucking way. I mean, there's no way. And then it's just incredible. And like, you know, the Parmesan and the jalapenos on there, like none of it makes sense to me, but it all comes together and it's like super delicious.
Yeah.
You know, I guess take me through some other dishes though. Like what, you know, when you're,
Yeah. I mean, another example is our cheeseburger, our double cheeseburger. We call it the legendary cheeseburger. I wanted a double cheeseburger. I didn't want the sauce to really take away from the cheese and the meat, but it needs to really balance out what it is, but be super delicious and add umami to the dish. When I see a burger, it's a meat dish to me. It's meat and bread. Without the protein, it's just bread.
yeah.
So in Korea, the way we eat meat, we always eat grilled meat with kimchi. Kimchi is what cuts the fat. It helps you digest. It keeps you wanting a second bite without it feeling gross and too greasy. So I said kimchi for sure is gonna work well with a burger. But I didn't want to take away from what the beef and the cheese is. It's a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
So my thought was just take great beef, American cheese. We got to use American cheese.
100%.
Sesame seeded bun. The whole inspiration behind it was my favorite burger growing up, which is a Big Mac. Sesame seeded bun, double cheeseburger, American cheese, some special sauce. So my special sauce was a kimchi special sauce, and that's how I came up with the dish.
Dude, I mean, it's so simple too.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny because it's not revolutionary in terms of like, it's not like you reinvented a burger, but it's just adding an accent from what you know and you knew amplified. Because like, you know, one of my favorite things when I eat Korean barbecue is like I grill the kimchi and I eat it with the beef.
Exactly,
like at the same, you know?
Yeah.
And so I guess if you're doing like really good sales at the end of that, you know that you have like a baseline in the neighborhood now. Is it difficult opening a restaurant in New York City?
Oh, it's very difficult. But I say this with like, not to scare people away from it, but it's like good difficulty. It's like you're learning something brand new, you know. Opening a restaurant, getting the capital, I think is really hard. And if you grow up like me, you know, middle class, low middle class, you don't even have really money saved up, and you're trying to open something, you like fantasize of like you're gonna design this kitchen and pick the whatever, you know, pick the tables and chairs. No, you just have to buy whatever you can. Like,
I know, it's like what's in front of you, right?
You're going to like flea markets, you're going to like garage sales, like you're just buying whatever you can.
Those are the best places though.
Yeah.
The undercapitalized place with amazing food, and that's what I was saying, is like over and over and over again, people over-index, I would say this, aspiring restaurateurs over-index on the superficial and ignore the main ingredient, which is like, do you have a burger people will line up for? Because if not, it doesn't matter how much marble and how much awesome recessed lighting you have in a space.
My
or whatever.
dad says that
Nobody
all the
gives
time.
a shit. I'll eat in a cardboard box if it's the best, you know. And a lot of my favorite places in New York are that way. And so like when you're building it out and you're like, are you begging family and friends for capital? I mean, without a ton of credit behind you, it's hard to get credit.
Yeah, well, first of all, it was hard for me to get a loan from a bank because I had no track of his like business history, and I didn't have any assets. You know, I had a Metro card.
Don't even have a watch. You sold your watch.
So, but luckily my parents lent me a little money. My brother lent me a little money, and I really bootstrapped it, dude. I opened it with so little, like, and I just made everything work.
I love it. You know,
it was crazy. When I tell people that story, they're like, dude, it doesn't even
take
sound
me there. Give me details, man. Like, where did you find your tables? What kind, like, what were you, what?
My dad made the tables from scratch. He made the tabletops. We used the table bases that were left over from the previous restaurant. And these table bases were all like different sizes, and we just like made it work. My dad did all the little handyman stuff in the restaurant, like cement walls, painting, you know, fixing door handles. And the previous tenant just left because they were evicted, actually, because they weren't paying sales tax and they weren't paying rent. So they had a notice on the door from U.S. Marshal just seizing, you know, taking possession of the property. So they had I think they had like a day to leave. So they just took whatever they can and they left everything else behind.
It's like good plates, for you, right?
Yeah, but remember, these are like just random stuff. You know what I mean? Like, but that's how I was able to use whatever. I was like, I'm not getting new plates. I'm using whatever I can here. All the chairs here. Okay, the chairs can go, but table bases, like keep the legs, you know? So that's how I made it happen.
And so what was opening like?
Oh man, I opened without a liquor license. So you asked, is it difficult? In New York City, it's difficult because of liquor license. East Village, I think it's community board CB2 or CB3, one of the most difficult community boards because there's so many bars.
Yeah.
It's rowdy, you know? So the community, rightfully so, they don't want another bar. They just want restaurants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to get approved and to get the license, it takes many, many months, and you don't know when you're going to get it. So I applied right away around September.
Because you have to have a lease before you can apply.
Exactly.
Like you have to have a location.
Yeah,
right.
Right. So I applied, and that's not cheap either. The fees for the liquor license.
Like 10,000, 5,000.
It was more than 10, between 10 and 15,000. I don't remember exactly, but it's because I don't know how to fill out the liquor license at all. And once you file it, you don't want to go back and forth and make mistakes along the way. That's just going to delay it further. So I had to hire a liquor attorney to help me with the process. But even then, it takes a long time. So I opened end of November. I signed the lease in September. I opened end of November without a liquor license. We were just selling soda and like mocktails with the food. And but I was fully staffed in front of the house. I was staffed in the back of the house. I had a full team, but I only had one stream of revenue, which was food. And I was losing money just staying open. Wow.
So even you could have a successful restaurant, but without liquor, it's still impossible?
I think it's tough. You know, I heard my old bosses say food is what gets people in. It's the drinks that keep the restaurant open and profiting.
Yeah.
And I didn't really understand what they meant by that, but I think I have a better understanding now, because food, you know, it's 70%. Well, for us, it's 70% of the revenue is food. 30% of the revenue comes from drinks, the cocktails, the beer, the wine. And you're missing 30% of the sales, which is a huge chunk.
Well, not to mention like how much of the overhead is due to food.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's like you need all this staff, all the material, all the supplies, all of the seating for food. And like you're not making as high of a margin as you are just drinks. Like,
correct.
You know, and there's so much to the restaurant industry that I think people don't understand. Just because you go to a restaurant, you like it, you sit down, you eat, and it's packed all the time. And it's like, how could my favorite place that's busy all the time close? I don't understand. The economics are so difficult. Like you really have to think about how you're pricing things, how much it's going to cost in overhead or whatever. And I'm wondering like how you think about that. Like what was your strategy for like, shit, I got to figure out a business plan. It's not enough just to have a good burger.
I didn't know anything about the business. I'm getting P&Ls. I don't really know how to read it well, you know? And I'm losing money, like tens of like 5,000, 6,000, 10,000. I'm losing money every month. And I'm thinking to myself, well, like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I have no idea. It doesn't make sense. I had a bookkeeper that was sending me the P&L. My food cost is at 24%. And then I looked at the number. I said, how did he get the 24%? This dude for months was sending me P&Ls 24, basing the percentage of the food cost based on the overall sales, not based on the food sales. the overall sales. So my food cost looked too good to what it was in reality. It was probably more like 32%. So when I actually sat down, and I can't stress this enough, as a operator, you're not an operator until you really understand the P&Ls. Just because you have great service doesn't make you an operator. You need to understand the numbers, and everything needs to be aligned. If the business is not profiting and staying afloat, you're not doing a great job operating. So when I dug into the P&L and looked at line by line and tried to understand the numbers and make it make sense, I realized my bookkeeper wasn't sending me the correct reports, or not in a way that I needed to see it. So the first thing I did was I changed bookkeepers.
I was gonna say fire your bookkeeper. Yeah, for sure.
I said, screw this company.
Yeah.
You don't know, you specialize in restaurants and you don't even know how to send me a proper like food cost. Like, get out of here. You're done. So I switched over to another bookkeeping company, and then I raised all my food prices by $1.
You have to, right?
You have to. And I wasn't happy to do that, but I needed to do that because I can't keep my staffs employed.
No.
And I can't serve everyone without staying afloat.
You know what I say is, like, I'd rather be a little expensive and excellent than try to be a little bit cheaper and win on quantity.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
like, there's two ways to really think about it, that,
Yeah.
you know, and like, if people know, and this is what I go back to, like, if you're consistently good and people consistently are happy when they leave, then they're going to be willing to pay a little bit more because they know that you're going to be worth it. Like 100%. I would rather pay $1 extra for this amazing burger than go somewhere else where it's a little bit cheaper, but maybe it's not quite as good.
Yeah.
Did you get pushback?
No.
New Yorkers are crazy about, like,
I get pushback now, but when I made the change then, I didn't get pushback. No, actually, you know, here and there, I'm pretty sure we get pushback all the time. People want value, and if people see that the prices are going up, automatically people are going to complain. But it doesn't. But I need to make a business decision. I want to please everybody, but I also have to keep my staffs employed.
Yeah.
Guess what happens when you want to pay people fairly and pay them more in this competitive market? Who takes the hit? The business owner.
Man, let's get into it. 'Cause, like, this one is really difficult for me. And like, these are one of those conversations where maybe it's just easier not to have it. But man, it's very difficult to pay a wage at $20 an hour, say. Like, you're not getting a lot of good help these days for under 20 an hour. Like 20 is like just like the barrier to entry, right? You know, let's say you have 6 employees making $20 an hour, right? And you sell a burger for $15. How many burgers do you have to sell an hour just to pay for the employees? And like, so when you start to really think about what that increased wage does, it just moves everything up.
Yeah.
And like, I don't have a good answer for this because people definitely deserve to you know, have vacation and have insurance and whatever they want to do. I don't know if there's an answer for it. I don't know if maybe the economics of restaurants just won't work in the future because, you know, the demand from labor is going to be so high that it's just the economics don't make sense for an operator to take the financial risk to open. Right?
Yeah.
Or maybe you find ways to automate or cut down. Like this was the huge story for when I was in Detroit and I was covering the $15 minimum wage hike. I can't remember the name of the group that did it, but they wanted to push everything in. I think minimum wage at the time was $8, so they wanted a $7 increase in the minimum wage. And I talked to a restaurant owner just kind of like bluntly, and he owned an Italian restaurant, and it was like, how many bowls of pasta would you have to sell more if your staff wages were increased? And it was like a ridiculous amount more. And so I don't know how this like ends or where it goes. I mean, fast food is different because you can automate so much of the process. Like, people are just going to kind of like price themselves out of a job at some point in some industries.
Yeah.
But like, from your perspective, like, what's fair to who? How do you determine that?
You know, I mean, what's fair is, you know what dictates fairness in the job market is the job market. You go on culinary agents, you go on Indeed, you see what the going rates are for a restaurant your size, and that's the market price, and that's what you should offer to get the talent. And each year, you know, the minimum wage goes up. And each year, food prices go up. The food cost goes up. The cost of beef, the cost of oil, paper products, chemicals, you name it. Everything goes up. Rent goes up. Rent goes up between 3 to 5% every year, sometimes more. So naturally, the food prices, the beverage prices, they go up. So it's just a natural progression. You can't raise one without raising the other. It just all needs to happen. And it all happens to keep everything working.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Man, my favorite place in New York was a pizza and pasta shop called Franny's in Park Slope. And they were busy every single night. Like, it was an incredible place. The minute minimum wage went up, they closed down. They're like, we can't do it. The economics don't work out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of that many times. You know, also, I don't think it's the price of food that keeps everyone away either. You know, there are a lot of restaurants where serving great food and they dropped their food prices because they wanted more people to come in and to be more approachable. And then, but they couldn't stay afloat.
Well, their problem was before. Like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Especially like if you start to offer sales or discounts or coupons,
yeah.
then you get a little low rent, and then all of a sudden you're not seen it. It's weird. Like, New York's a weird market. I don't know if it's like that everywhere, but here specifically, you know, if you're someone who can hold out on your price and you're like, no, it's worth it, people will almost respect you more than if you try to like discount your way into like bringing people in. It's almost a sign of desperation here.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, you know, one of the most, I think, important questions that people want to know is like, how much did it cost to open a restaurant in New York City?
First one cost me initially around like $250,000.
Just that's the cost of a ticket to ride.
Yeah, and that's like bare minimum. You cannot open a restaurant that size for $250,000 anymore. I don't think.
No way.
It's like impossible. Second one cost me about $850 all in, and that's having money for inventory, training, and operating capital. $850,000.
And that's in Bushwick?
That's in Bushwick.
Is it open now? Or?
Yeah, we've been open for close to a year now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But now, you know, construction cost is the biggest thing. Price of lumber, price of steel, everything went up, and it's not what it used to cost anymore to physically build a restaurant. So I'm negotiating on a space right now in Hell's Kitchen, and I'm estimating that to be around $1 million.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
if not a little more.
So
I think $1 million.
Yeah.
I think restaurant for like just.
Okay, so
yeah.
let me ask you this then. So like Jay of today is looking at Jay with the pop-up called Him, you know, sitting on a box thinking about pawning his watch to make rent for just a pop-up space. Would you advise him to get into this industry?
Oh, absolutely.
How so? Like, you were just going
Absolutely.
through all of these difficulties. What makes it worth it?
I think that's what makes it beautiful. Like, nothing in life that's worth it comes easy. I think there's beauty in struggle. You have to fight through adversity. You have to go through all these challenges to make the experience.
But does it have to be this damn hard?
I wish it was easier, but at the same time, like, if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it.
Yeah,
you know?
it's true. And like one thing I want to talk to you about is competition here.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the minute you come up with a kimchi burger that gets a big hit, there's going to be 10 kimchi burgers like coming right behind you. What's competition like here? Is it, you know, people that are outside of New York, you know, have like, I think like we, you know, and I'm not born here, so I definitely thought about here before I moved here. And it just seems so competitive. It seems like it's always a fist fight. No matter what you want to do, you want to park on the street, you want to, whatever it is. How competitive is the restaurant industry in New York?
It's very competitive, but also there's a good, you know, there's camaraderie too. Like restaurant, you know, like I'm part of a chef's group. We, you know, trade resources like contacts to help each other, you know, finding suppliers or, you know, questions on, you know, locations or whatever it is. Like there's a group for that. You know, in Bushwick, we have a group amongst like the bar restaurant owners, and we help each other with whatever's going on in the neighborhood, whatever it is. So it's competitive, but at the same time, there's within the competition, there's also camaraderie. But, you know, I think competition is what pushes you to become better. And I welcome the competition. There's going to be more Korean inspired burgers to come after me, and I want that to be the case. However, when people think of Korean burgers, like with kimchi and special sauce and chopped cheese rice cakes and honey butter tots, they're going to think of Nowon because we were the first to do it. And,
Yeah.
and in order to make your mark, I think it's important to be the first, not the first of the category itself. I'm not the first one to make the burger or tots or chicken wings, but I'm the first of my subcategory. And if I'm the first in the consumer's mind, I think it'll be tough to, rule me out.
Well, I think, but more specifically, it's because the dish is of your experience. And so, like, it's somebody else could mimic it, but like, when you're the originator, like that sets the tone for it. So everything else would be a different version of it. But if you want it, it's got to be that one.
Yeah, like for example, Coca-Cola. That's number one. I would say Coca-Cola is number one in everyone's mind,
100%.
Followed by Pepsi, and that hasn't changed in however many years. So I kind of think of it like that. Like I'm the Coca-Cola of Korean style burgers, Korean style tots.
One thing that is really fresh to me, not to change gears too much, but I just got back from a trip to Italy. And I kind of had this epiphany. Like, New York kind of ruins you a little bit.
Oh, okay.
When you travel.
Okay, how so?
It's like the best of something in New York is going to hang globally.
Yes.
And so your bar is higher.
Yes.
Your ability to be excited by something is a little bit low. It's like, just because, like, man, I went on a big like cacio e pepe kick when I was a couple of months ago here. I went like a lot of things like pizza, whatever it is. Man, I went and I gotta be honest, like, and I'm wondering if this holds true in other categories too, which is like, you and I had a very good Korean barbecue meal.
Oh yeah.
Don.
So good.
I mean, dry aged Iberico pork. If you go to Korea and you get Korean barbecue and you go to the best pork restaurant for pork in Korea, is it going to be so much better than the meal that we had here?
Probably not.
Set and setting will be different. Like, don't get me wrong. Yeah. Like eating cacio e pepe at, Fortunata in Rome, which is like one of the, places, like amazing because you're there. But if you just close your eyes and you eat the pasta, I mean, it's water, pecorino, and and so I just am like wondering from your perspective, it's like, New York is so competitive. You cannot be, you can be mediocre and exist. You can't, but if you're exceptional, you'll thrive.
Yes.
In the exceptional places here, and I'm wondering from your perspective, like, am I wrong in thinking that like?
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Every time I travel, I get homesick, and I tell my wife like every time we visit a new country or a new place and we eat around in restaurants, we're like, oh, it's good. And then we think to ourselves, man, like New York City, maybe we don't have the number one best restaurant of every cuisine, but it's up there. It's probably top 5. It has to be. So we have the best of everything within our city, and we're so spoiled.
It's almost gross. I mean, I just go back and I was talking to my wife about it, and it's like, I don't know if, I went to some really special pizza places in Italy. Like, these are like, two places were top 10 ranked globally pizza places. Yeah. And I'm like, man, there's some really good stuff in New York. And it just got me thinking a little bit about like, our perspective here and the food that we have here and what makes it so special. And like, the coolest part about this to me and your story specifically and how I kind of like put this together in my head was like, not only here can you get, exceptional, authentic versions. I had the most incredible Peking duck at Juchi in Queens. Holy shit, that's insane. But what's really cool about America specifically is like it really is this blending of the two. And so, you could get really good, say like, rice cake bulgogi, or you could get the best cheeseburger ever, but it's only in a city like this with someone like you who's lived both experiences fully that's going to come up with your, chopped cheese, rice cake chopped cheese dish, which is so exceptional. And I think that's really like something to be said about like what we have to offer. I think everybody kind of, you think back about, I guess, cuisine and how, there's no real true American cuisine. Like, what would you consider it? A steak? A baked potato? Yeah. But it's not that. is chopped cheese rice cakes.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? And so I just think it's really cool that not only do we have like some of the best like authentic individual categories, but then there's this exceptional kind of like fusion that happens. And fusion is really a cheap word for me. Like what you did is just so pure to who you are, man. And like the minute that I had it, I was like, holy shit. Like this is something that should not work. I want to go into this like, you know, maybe we should explain what the dish is.
Yeah.
What is this chopped cheese dish?
So chopped cheese, the dish is called chopped cheese rice cakes. Chopped cheese is a sandwich birthed in New York in Harlem. It's basically hamburger patty that's chopped up on a griddle with American cheese, some sazon. It goes on bread like toasted hero, and you know you put mayo, ketchup, whatever you want, like lettuce, jalapeno, and it's like a cheesesteak almost, but it's chopped.
Yeah.
You know, chopped burger patty. Also kind of reminds a lot of people of like Hamburger Helper in a way. So rice cake is tteokbokki. Rice cake is basically like gnocchi that's made with rice. It's very popular in Korea and other parts of Asia. And usually we eat rice cakes like spicy, and like a spicy gochujang, which is like a fermented chili sauce, a little sweet, a little spicy. There's fish cakes, boiled egg, you know, onion, things like that, carrot. And we eat in the street, like, you know, the street food, like literally we eat in the street. But it's very chewy. So the chopped cheese rice cakes, I basically take the meat and cheese and the garnish elements of the chopped cheese sandwich, and I cook it along with rice cakes, which are crispy because we fry it and then we wok toss it. So so you get like this pasta looking dish with like this beef cheesy ragu.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then we garnish it with some soy pickle jalapenos, garlic breadcrumbs, and Parmesan cheese.
And it's like an only in New York dish.
Yeah, that dish for sure doesn't exist anywhere. Like the way I made it, for sure, I'm the first to ever do it like that.
That's pretty cool to be able to say, like, cool, so definitively, like, to say that. And I mean, it's like you just open up. What's the plan for Nowon?
So, I want to take Nowon and go like national, and then eventually international. I want to start in the East Coast, open up a few more locations, build my team, build my foundation, and start expanding to other states.
How do you keep it? Like, how do you keep that magic of that first one when you try to expand the footprint? Like, how do you keep your fingerprints on the locations when you're not physically present?
I mean, you know, there's many answers to that. I mean, there's many things that that are very important. Number one is building the right team, the right leaders in the places.
Yeah, but wait a second, because like that's like a stock answer. How do you incentivize the team? Like, because like really, it's like you know what I'm saying. It's like you put all of this effort into training somebody, and you make them their number two. Like, how do you incentivize them properly?
You incentivize them by they need to buy into your dream as well. In order to keep people motivated and driven, if you want the best of the best in this competitive market, you got to ask yourself, why would this person leave that job and come work for me or work with me? Why? What do I have offered to them that other companies won't offer to them? And I have this wild dream. And people, when they meet me, they believe that I can achieve this wild dream because they see how disciplined I am, that I'm serious about not just myself, but the people around me. So they have to believe you and believe that they believe that you can do it, and they want to help get you there, and it's part of what they want. People leave because they hit ceilings in companies. They have nowhere to grow anymore. But people naturally want to keep growing. A lot of people don't want incentive to be like this. Hey, the incentive is now, and after a year, I'm happy. Like, I'll just stay at this. No. People will rather take a small salary cut. I'm not saying that's everybody, but if they see a 10-year plan and they know that they can go places with you and help you get there and grow into different positions that are above and beyond what they've done, they're gonna stick around, and that's the incentive. And you keep them motivated yearly with bonuses, with you know, not just their salary, but based on their performance, team performance. Part of it is, you know, building a team. It's not just building one leader. It's building all the leaders and getting them on board together so that we can, you know, go towards accomplish goals together as a team. And you incentivize the team goals and their individual performance goals based as a bonus. 60% is based on we, 40% is based on I. You incentivize them more as working as a team. So you keep them together and together, you know, people love working in groups. Restaurant is group.
It is a very different industry.
It's a team sport.
Yeah. And it's like people, like you're in the trenches together.
You're in it together. You share wins together. You share if the FOH has a terrible service, it's going to affect the back of the house. If the back of the house is messing up on food, it's going to affect front of the house. What one side does affects the other. We're a team no matter what. We're separated by front and back, but we're not separated by a team. Like we are one. So that's how you keep them on board. People have to know that. As the owner, for me, I tell myself, I have to remain hungry, and I have to, take over new territories, because I have to create new opportunities for my top performers, people that need a place to grow into. I have an amazing sous chef that's been with me for 3 years, and they're just ready to take on the head chef role. I got to create that opportunity for that person.
So it's almost more like, I'm not saying you would lead a business decision without having an ultimate financial goal, but there's more to expansion than just I can generate X revenue in X market that's underserved. Like you're literally thinking on a one-to-one level, like what are the best opportunities I could create for these?
It's all together. It's not one or the other. It needs to be together. So you asked me, how do I capture the magic? Well, the magic of Nowon is really within the dishes and what we serve, the ambiance we create, the music that we play, the way that the lights are dim, the type of hospitality, the drinking games we have, the food. We standardize all our recipes to the gram. We try to find ways to be consistent in everything we do, so that we serve, no matter if I cook it, or my sous chef cooks it, or my chef cooks it, or my line cook cooks it, it's all the same, the way it comes out. So the way we capture magic is through systems and processes. Initially, it was based on my story, but after we systemize whatever that story is, we capture it and we put it on paper. We create recipes and things like that, training guidelines, how to greet a guest, SOPs. We capture it and we systemize it. We replicate it. Training comes in by the people that train the staff. My right hand, my director of ops, is the person that's going to ensure that each restaurants are following our SOPs and brand standards. And we have to make something. So in my mind, if I want to expand, I got to create process and systems while capturing, and that's how I capture magic. And we do that in cities where we belong. Like, I think if I opened up a Nowon in like middle of nowhere, like in a desert, I don't think people are going to come. I need to be in urban areas, like Chicago, LA, Miami, places like that. And I know I can thrive because in those markets, they welcome those neighborhoods. They welcome, places like Nowon.
Well, it's funny. It's like, not only that, it's like in urban areas or bigger cities like that, they're going to have what you're bringing is going to be almost familiar. You know what I mean? But it's going to be through this New York lens. So it's like it's like a trifecta of awesome. It's like, not only is this technically a great burger, and not only is this burger an actual, or let's say the chopped cheese is great. Let's say not only is this like a New York staple mixed with like a Korean staple, but it's like blended through a New York, kind of like I don't even know, vehicle, and like brought to these other places. So it's like exotic and it's great. It's been tested through New York, so you know that it's going to be good. Yeah. That's the other thing about New York that's crazy, man. It's like if something succeeds here, you can almost go. I mean, it's wild. It's wild. I don't have some like big grand thought, but like, man, but your story talking about pawning a watch because you believed in this burger and this idea so much to. Now I'm like creating systems because I'm going to go national. It's like my final question now that it just dawned on me is like, can your story still happen? Like, can that happen today? Like, could someone have
anyone else?
Yeah. Is it still possible?
It's still very possible. I mean, I love America because I'm literally living the American dream. I moved here when I was 8. We lived in an illegal basement in Flushing. And now I own 2 businesses with dreams of opening more. I have a third one on the way in Seaport, Boston. That's a license deal that I'm negotiating on a Space and Hell's Kitchen, and I'm dreaming bigger. So your dreams are very possible in America, but it's not given. Dreams are not handed to you. You got to fight for it. But the way it works in America is you have to have something special, a good product, and you have to work hard for it, and then you're going to achieve your dreams. And it can happen to anybody, but only to those who risk it. You know, that's the thing. I think a lot of people crave comfort, you know, and I think that's okay for some people. And you have to I think most people need to realize who they are in life, right? Are you a visionary? Are you the one that's going to create something, an idea, and are you able to take the huge risks and to make that happen? Or some people are just number two people, which is great too. They're the entrepreneurs. They help the entrepreneurs achieve their goal, and they're going to be incentivized for it. And then there are some people that just want, you know, just hourly thing and just, you know, just live life happily that way. But you have to be honest. You have to be honest and true to yourself, who you are, because you can't be the hourly guy just wanting to work 30 hours a week and then expect to make money like the visionary when they've sacrificed their entire life to get to where they are. Life doesn't work that way here. So, you know, to those who risk it all will be rewarded as long as they have a great product and a great story behind it in America today.
Jay, I just want to thank you so much for coming in, man. This was amazing.
Yeah, man. Dude, that was great.
Awesome. Appreciate it. All right. Nowon, the Lower East Side, the chopped cheese. Guys, you have no idea how good this is. It's ridiculous, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.